Welcome guys back to another lecture in our color scheme section. In this one, we're going to be looking at complementary colors. As always, we're going to be talking about what it is and how it's used. So what is it? Complementary colors are a pair of colors that are opposite to each other on the color wheel, and they also cancel each other's hue by creating a white, black, or gray mixture. So when they are paired together, they create a strong contrast and stick out. So when you want to use complementary colors in order to showcase important elements in your game, depending if it's a narrative game or if it's for mechanic purposes, having a complementary color dictate, let's say, a good guy versus a bad guy, or let's say growth versus decay. Whatever the case is, whenever you want to show important elements, complementary colors are a great way to show opposites of one another and the great contrast between them. Now, depending on which color theory is being used, the colors have different complementary ones. So what I'm talking about this is either RBG additive color or CMY subtractive color. Now the complementary colors usually are: red is cyan, green would be magenta, and blue would be yellow. Now, the opponent process theory says that the most contrasting of all color pairs are red and green and blue and yellow. And when it comes to an RYB color model, the common complementary colors are red to green, yellow to purple, and blue to orange. So, looking at an example at the bottom of the screen, this is from Firewatch. And as we see in the game, the level designers and the artists did a great job at using the background and the foreground as two different colors opposite of each other on the color spectrum, and then using the middle part of the screen, so the actual center part, with two other complementary colors along the side of the contrasting ones on the other side of the spectrum. So to get a better understanding, looking at our foreground, so what we're seeing at the bottom of the screen, he used a lighter yellow, and then contrast to that one would be the lighter green, more like aqua, which is used for the sky. And then keeping into the middle of the screen, so the center part, they use two colors, so two of the complementary colors on the opposite spectrum, the darker orange and the darker green. So as you can see, the eye focuses directly in the center due to the darker hues surrounded by the lighter hues, but makes the painting in general and the scene look very balanced. So that's one great thing about complementary colors, is that whenever you use two conflicting colors from the opposite side, it also creates a very nice scene, mise en scène, in terms of balance and harmony. And that's one example of how it's used. But now looking at a more theoretical aspect, using the color scheme creates also a very aesthetically pleasing and visual for the user, as we saw in the previous example. And this allows for the image that is being displayed to look much brighter, as we saw as well. Looking at now this example on our right, this is a split complementary, where we take one color from the opposite side of the spectrum, and as we're going towards the other side, we split it in two at the center point, and then choosing both of those split colors to complement that one, but at a lesser degree. So what we do is we split it up into four parts, or in terms divided by four. So half of the color that is going to be used is from one side of the color complementary, and then the split each get 25% of the rest of the scene in order to use their hue. And as you can see, the dominant color in this example would be that light teal, green, blue. And then the complementary colors would be orange and yellow. And as you can see, this also makes a great, peaceful, and harmonious scene in the entire level due to the representation of these type of complementary schemes. Now, to create some great results, try placing cool colors against warm colors, as we saw in the previous example. And the best way to do this is to choose a dominant color and use its complementary as an accent. Example, use one for background and the other to highlight key elements. So as we saw in the last few examples, and now looking at this example, our two main color schemes are going to be red and green. Now depending on the saturation of it, it's up to the user, but in this scene he used the green color, the light green, to foreshadow the background, and the lighter pink color to be the foreground. But the main elements in the scene are both the mountain and the two characters. And the mountain is currently a very dark shade of green, and the characters in the scene are dark shades of red, being their dominant. So as you can see, both of them still respect the different opposite color schemes and the complementary color, but also showcasing great elements. So obviously the user seeing the mountain is most probably cued into going after that mountain or going to see what that mountain holds because of what it represents in the scene. So this is really good level design in terms of how, foreshadowing something in the future or foreshadowing an event that the users must walk towards. And that's basically how you use complementary colors inside a video game. The best thing to do is to mix and match, different colors from both sides of the spectrum, and always have one become a background and the other one being the foreground. And then for your center, try to use also complementary colors as well in order to really highlight key elements in your scene, and so that the player is not really confused as to what the objectives are. And that's it, guys, for this little lecture, and I'll see you guys in the next one.